Good evening, and welcome to today's episode of Beating COVID 19. Um, Today is a bit of a solemn day because today we're going to talk about Coronaconomics, or you could call it COVID economics, which is the economic impact of the coronavirus around the world. The economists of the day paint a very bleak picture of what the world will be or the world is due to the coronavirus pandemic. So this evening I just want to cover, it's a continuation from what we covered yesterday. So I want to cover this evening's conversation by discussing the impact of coronavirus on the economies of the world, including Kenya. Our source documentation is coming from the World Economic Forum. There are some news articles from Reuters. There is a economic forecast document from Saiton for Kenya, and all round it's a very big and bleak picture. As usual, I have my notes. So let's start off. In the first quarter of the year, the US unemployment numbers went up to 14.7%, which is approximately 20 million jobs lost. The EU GDP it's expected to contract by 7.5%, which is a reduction from $18.8 trillion to about $17.39 trillion, which is a contraction of about 1.41 trillion euros. Trillion euros, not trillion dollars. Trillion euros. In the UK, 80% of wages will be paid by the government. While in the EU zone, they have borrowed 3 trillion euros to support the EU nations, while the US has already borrowed over 2 trillion US. Now, these are countries which can support their populations. Let us now go down the path. It's estimated that the US will lose 33 million jobs in total by the time we are through this coronavirus pandemic. India will have lost 122 million jobs. The UK economy will have shrunk by almost 35%, and an increase of unemployment to up to 3.4 million people. In Spain, 900,000 jobs are lost, and according to Bloomberg, 50% of African jobs will most likely go. The AU study that was done recently, and I'm quoting Reuters here, is that 20 million jobs will be lost in Africa. In air travel, already according to IATA, $113 billion has already been lost due to lost air travel. You can see that by simple two examples. Like in Japan, in quarter one, they have lost $1.29 billion of tourism revenue from China, not from any other place. And as well as Thailand, $1.15 billion revenue in the first quarter. Now, Saiton's report on Kenya. It covers a lot of things, and I'm just going to cover the impact areas which are relevant to us. So, the major impact areas marked as red, which you shall see in the report, show tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and health will be adversely hit by this coronaconomics. Whereas moderate impacts will be found or felt at the wholesale, retail, and finance and insurance, construction, and professional services. Let me flip the page. According to the Saiton report, the Kenya GDP will contract by about 10%, between 10 and 25% of our GDP will go during this time. And 10% is the optimistic estimate due to strict actions against the COVID spread, and 25% is in case the outbreak goes out of hand. Now, the Kenyan GDP according to sources online, is approximately 87.91 billion US dollars. 10% of that is 8.79 billion US dollars getting lost out of the economy, and 25% of that is 21.98 billion US dollars. And that, my friends, is the impact of a virus that hits the whole world. Life is not going to be the same after this, but I want you guys to have hope that we're going to see this through. I know at the moment there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets, in the business sector, in the entrepreneurship sector, in the shops and the jobs. And I will share possibly a few video clips when I can get them of what Mombasa looks like on a normal day. Not a weekend, a normal day. With the shops closed and the economy has really shrunk. I think for the most part, we have to take this thing seriously and understand that is this the result of partly our doing? Just let's ask ourselves if we can do better. Right now we have seen, and it's not hidden, the way 1 billion Kenya shillings was spent, and many people are not happy with that. Approximately maybe 12 or 13% of that money actually went to protective, the PPEs. Everything else was leased, bought and paid for, which means you cannot get those assets back. We are taking on more debt as a nation, and that will have its impact when the creditors come calling. I would say, sadly, and not only to blame the pandemic, but it's true, corruption kills. If we look back and look at how much money we have wasted on trivial things and stolen from the public coffers, you will find that if we had that money, we would have mounted a better response. Impunity kills. I urge you Kenyans just to look at yourselves and take this time of lockdown and shutdown to ask yourself fundamental questions. Is this the Kenya I want after this? After this coronavirus is done? If your answer is yes, then I feel sorry for you. If your answer is no, then let's do something about it. Right now, there are many Kenyans who are stranded in foreign countries and they are trying to make their way back. Let us support them because they have lost everything. They have left everything where they've left, and they've made the journey home seeking refuge. It's not an easy task. The nation of Kenya needs to pull together and say no to corruption and say no to the wasteful use of public funds, and to say no to those who perpetrate and exacerbate the destruction of our economy. Because coronavirus did not bring our economy down. It only accelerated its fall. Let us take that very seriously. We are begging for help. And those people who are giving us are looking at us and saying, you ate the money you should have saved. I'd say as a Kenyan, I feel ashamed that I cannot even feed my own population. I cannot mount solutions for entrepreneurs such as myself to be rescued from this downturn. There is no safety net for those who fall through. It's back to the drawing board for most of us. But as as the famous saying that Kenyans are sometimes called mrembos, and then they are called mrendas. But let me tell you, we go on regardless. I wish you a good evening. I look forward to continue this series, trying to find a way out of this situation. And I'll share with you what I find. And I hope that God in His due time shall see us through this pandemic, and we shall see the end of it. And that we can open our economies, and granted, we should be able to see better days. I intend to cover tomorrow nations that did things differently. That might be a more interesting topic with a bit of a bit of encouragement, because all is not lost. But right now, it's good to know the truth, because the truth will set you free. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next one.